My name is Saul. And I'm still alive. No, not in the sense that young people say, alive means everything is fine. No. I'm a wretch. I breathe, eat, sleep. In the morning I turn on the kettle, wait for the water to boil, and watch the steam rise above the metal. This is the only thing that rises in this house. Everything else, it settles. My house stands on the outskirts, where the city ends, but the silence has not yet begun. Once there was a buzz here, the radio was playing, plates were clanking, grandchildren were running around barefoot, a woman was laughing loudly. Now, only the old wooden creak of the door and the rustle of old age on the walls. My children are beautiful, successful. One is a lawyer in the capital, the other is an expert in something, never quite understanding what she does. They rarely call, and when they do, their voice is different, like those who talk to a delivery service. Briefly. Politely. Without emotion. Grandchildren. I remember holding them in my arms. Blowing on their wounded knees. Now, when they come, if they come, it's only through force. They feel duty, not love. They look at screens, not into my eyes. One once asked me if I had Wi-Fi. I replied that I had books. He shrugged. That was our last conversation. In the store, they don't notice me. The cashier glances over my head. As if I were a phantom. In the hospital, it's even worse. There I'm not a patient, I'm a number, a line in a chart. Age, allergies, sit and wait. I sit. And wait. And with each such day, something new grows inside me, bitter, dark, viscous. Every morning I put on a shirt, button it up. It's important. A person should have a shape, even if their world is shapeless. I shave because I don't want to see a depraved, forgotten grandfather in the mirror. But every time I look in the mirror, I see eyes. Not mine. The eyes of an old wolf who was kicked out of the pack. I'm silent a lot. Words are a luxury for those who are listened to. And I'm not listened to anymore. When I try to tell something, they interrupt me. They change the subject. Sometimes, they just leave. And then, something inside me starts to rot. It's not physical, I'm still strong for my age. It's internal. It's like the rod that once held me straight is starting to crack. I remember who I was. I was a voice at the table. I was the person people turned to for advice, for solving problems, for the truth. My word was like a seal. My no stopped discussions. And now, I say, good day, and they don't answer me. In the evening, I sit in the kitchen, put a cup of cool tea in front of me, and open my diary. I used to write down plans, business ideas, delivery schedules there. And now I write down silence. Dates when I was forgotten. The names of those who pretended that I didn't exist. September 12th, Dr. Smolik. Didn't listen. September 18th, Oleg, grandson. Came. Sat on the phone. Didn't ask how I was. September 21st, Marta, daughter. Said she was busy. But posted a photo from the coffee shop. Each entry is like a match that I put in a pile. I haven't lit it yet. I don't want regret. I want memory. I want to be seen. And when you stop being seen, your survival instinct awakens. The original one. The predator. I'm still here. I still have a mind. And a mind is a dangerous thing when ignored. I built everything with my own hands. No bribes, no gifts, no easy ways. I wasn't raised, I raised myself. My hands still remember the cold of the morning metal doors of the warehouse, the smell of wet plywood, which we used to cover the goods to protect them from the rain. And my fingers remember the abacus, then the calculator, then the first keyboard. Everything, by myself. Step by step. My business started with a small hangar and one car. The driver got sick, I drove myself. The worker was late, I unloaded myself. And when it was necessary to conclude a contract, I put on a suit, gave a speech, and convinced people. Because then the fashion for words was still in. For honor. I didn't sell myself. I didn't give bribes. I did the right thing. Even when it was longer, more difficult, more expensive, I did the right thing. And for that I was respected. I remember how they shook my hand after every deal. They shook sincerely. Not out of duty, but out of respect. And at home. Maria was at home. My Marichka. She believed in me when there was nothing to believe in. I would come home late, she was already asleep, but she would always leave a note on the table, "You have done more than necessary again. I am proud of you." She was the heart of my home. The fire in the oven. And then, cancer. 5 months of struggle, and silence. I raised my children not strictly, but clearly. I taught them that no means no, that everyone has value, not just a price. I taught them to be human. I taught them honor, the kind that is so rarely seen these days. They were not deprived. I worked day and night so that they had everything, education, books, trips. I bought them their first computers when it was still a wonder. And now these computers are the only thing they interact with. Not with me. It seems that the most painful thing is not betrayal, but oblivion. They don't hate me. They just don't see me anymore. And I see. I see how each of their victories erases my voice from their memory. How each of their new friends replaces my advice. How I slowly and ingloriously disappear from their world, like a drop in a sewer pipe. My old photos are on the closet, not in frames, but in a box. There, among old documents and warranties for already thrown away equipment. I once opened that box, and it broke me. In the photo, I am young, gray hair has already touched my temples, but my eyes still burn. I am standing next to my son, he is holding a diploma. We celebrated his graduation from university then. I cried with pride. And now he looks at me like a broken watch, supposedly still working, but no one needs it anymore. I tried to remind them of me, without imposing, gently. I called. I suggested meeting. I gave them books. And they thanked me and put it on the shelf without opening it. Forever busy. Forever on the later side. All these years I thought I was building something big, not only a business, but also a family, values, support. But, apparently, I was wrong. Because I'm standing on the ruins that no one is interested in anymore. My children don't carry it on, they only carry themselves. In their cars, offices, iPhones. And I'm a silent stone on their path, which they try to avoid without touching. I thought that old age was about fatigue. But in fact, old age is about disappearance. About how one day you realize, no one will ask your opinion anymore. No one will ask for advice. No one will hug you just like that, out of obligation. And then what I've been afraid of all my life appears in me, an emptiness that breathes cold. I close my eyes, and I see myself, young. I see people shaking my hands, applauding me, people listening as if they were swallowing air. And I hear someone whispering, "That was a long time ago. Now you're nobody." I open my diary. I write 2 new lines. September 25th, son. Cancelled the meeting. Not at the right time. September 26th, neighbor Lida. Didn't recognize me on the street. Maybe she didn't. Or maybe she just pretended. And every time I write something like this, I feel a little better. Because each line is a step into the darkness, where I'm no longer a victim. I don't know when exactly I started writing. Maybe the day the nurse at the clinic told me, "Don't sit there, it's for the younger ones." Or maybe when my grandson, walking past me, muttered, "The old man doesn't understand anything anymore." Maybe I've been writing all my life, only before these notes were about victories. Now they're a catalogue of disdain. A list of invisible wounds. A diary of indifference. September 28th. I called my daughter. She said, "What's wrong with you again?" "I just wrote to you. Just now, a week ago." September 30th. Pharmacy. I wanted to ask about medicine. The pharmacist didn't let me finish. Read the instructions. Everything is there. October 2nd. My granddaughter asked me on my birthday if I still go to the toilet by myself. She laughed. The others did too. I didn't. Each of these moments is not just a nuisance. It's a small death. It's as if someone is cutting pieces out of you. And all this in broad daylight, in the presence of others who don't notice anything. They don't understand that old age is not the end, but the time when silence screams the loudest. My son, Oleg, comes once every 2 weeks. Usually with the look of a person whose mind is already somewhere else. He looks at his watch more often than at me. He doesn't ask, like I do. And if he does ask, it's the way you ask a chatbot, your eyes don't participate. "How are you, Dad?" "SOSO. Understood. Hang in there." Hang in there. For what? My grandson, Vlad, once sat on my lap and asked for fairy tales. Now he talks to me like an antique. "Grandpa, do you have a push-button phone again?" LOL. This LOL pierced me harder than any reproach. Because it's not anger, but mockery. Because I am the object of a joke. An old decoration in the interior, which is not thrown away only for fear of looking ungrateful. But the worst thing was not from relatives. The worst thing was an incident on the street. I was carrying packages. Ordinary ones, from the market. There were apples, some bread, 2 cans of stew. And yes, it is difficult for me. My hands are not the same anymore. My fingers do not obey, my joints burn like hot nails. The packages tore. Everything spilled out right onto the sidewalk. I tried to bend down, but I staggered. And I asked, "Young people. Help, please." 3 of them. Young people, about 20. One of them looked at me, grinned and said, "What do you want? Call a social worker." Another added, "Don't be ashamed, grandfather. Get yourself a wheelbarrow with wheels, like normal ones." And the third simply took out his phone and started filming. I felt sick. I lowered my eyes. Not from shame, from anger. I was trembling. But not from cold. In that look of one of them, I saw something terrible. Something I had once seen in business, in negotiations, in courtrooms, the look of superiority. Of a person who is sure that there is no one in front of them. And then, something clicked. Not loudly. Without thunder. Without showy music. Just a click, like a lock on a door. I was no longer someone to be humiliated. For the first time in years, I came home, and didn't lie down on the couch right away. I undressed slowly. I sat down at the table. I opened my diary. But this time, not for tears. I began to write. Not complaints. Data. Names. Behavior. Habits. Weaknesses. Because I remember who I am. And I remember that even a shadow can be sharp as a blade. In the silence of my home, a new sound is born. It's not noise, it's rhythm. The rhythm of the game I'm entering. Not to win, but to show that old age is not the end. It's an experience that kills not with fists, but with knowledge. They don't know what they've done yet. But they will find out. That evening I didn't turn on the light. I sat in the kitchen, only the flicker of the street lamp filtering through the blinds and drawing bars on the table like a lattice. I sat in this cage of light, but I didn't feel imprisoned. On the contrary, I felt free. The terrible freedom of someone who is no longer afraid. My old diary lay in front of me. The pages were not covered with ink, but with my life. Dates, names, circumstances. My defeats. My losses. My humiliation. But this time I wasn't just writing. I was drawing diagrams. Lines. Arrows. Circles. It wasn't a diary anymore. It was a map. I started with those 3 guys. I didn't know their names, but I knew where they were going. The video they were filming was posted online. It took minutes to find it. From the video I got profiles. And profiles are doors. And I can open doors. I always have. But it wasn't just them. I looked at my list: children, doctor, pharmacist, neighbor, grandson, daughter. It wasn't a list to get even with my fists. I'm not that kind of person. I'm not the kind of person who throws bottles at windows or makes threats. I'm the kind of person who makes people look in the mirror. I leaned back in my chair for a moment. The house was dead, as always, but I could feel movement in it. It was as if the shadows on the walls had begun to stir. I could hear the wood creaking, the old pipes whispering. This wasn't fear. This was awakening. In the kitchen cabinet mirror, I saw my own eyes. They weren't the eyes of an old man. They were the eyes of a predator who had been sitting in a hole for years, waiting to be forgotten. I had been forgotten. And that was their mistake. I took out of an old drawer things that I hadn't touched in decades. Notebooks with contacts, business cards, old letters, passwords, ciphers. My children think I'm just a grandfather in a hut. But I once conducted negotiations where the fates of companies and even people were decided. I know how human weakness works. I know how pressure works, how shame works, how reputation works. My plan wasn't about blood. My plan was about mirrors. Each of those who humiliated, betrayed, or erased me had vulnerable spots. Unobvious ones. Some had a job, some had a family, some had an image. And I began to build small traps. Words, actions, chance, meetings. I took my time. Old age has taught me patience. I started with the little things. My son received an anonymous letter, a copy of documents that showed his optimization of taxes. He didn't know it was me. He just felt that someone was watching. My daughter lost an important contract because I sent materials to partners where she lied about her experience. She thought they were competitors. A pharmacist got a check because it turned out she was forging prescriptions. One day, my neighbor Lita found photos on her page that she didn't want others to see. She used to post them herself. I just helped her remember. I didn't leave any traces. I didn't do anything illegal. I just revealed the truth. I just pushed a mirror in. And watched them look away. My home changed. It was no longer empty. The silence was as thick as skin. There was no pity in it. There was strength in it. For the first time in years, I slept soundly. And I wasn't dreaming about the past. I was dreaming about the future, that where no one dares to laugh at me anymore. I woke up and realized, I am no longer a spectator. I am a director. And this is my stage. That morning I got up, combed my hair, put on a dark shirt. Looking in the mirror, I did not see an old man. I saw a man who had finally remembered his true power. They had no idea that I was still playing. That someone who was considered broken and abandoned could create a game where every move was silence. Every piece was truth. And every win was not in applause, but in broken masks. I wasn't looking for open war. It's loud, dirty, and ultimately useless. My weapon is silent. I don't set fire, I push. I don't destroy, I open. And most importantly, I no longer did it to get something back. I did it to show, I hadn't disappeared. I was just waiting. Contacts from the past came to life. Old partners, former subordinates, forgotten phone numbers. Some with distrust, others with curiosity. Everyone had something in a drawer, a debt, a memory, a weakness. I didn't threaten. I reminded. And they agreed. I collected data the way I used to collect income, carefully, with attention to detail. I stringed together events, fragments, misunderstandings, family conflicts, what people post on social media without thinking. Everything is like chess. No one sees the trap until the last move. Oleg, my son, thought he controlled everything. His family is exemplary. His business is stable. But I knew that he was in debt. And that he was cheating on his wife. I didn't write anonymously. No. I simply, accidentally, slipped the fact to his wife through a mutual acquaintance. Her reaction was instant. A family conversation turned into a scandal. He didn't understand how everything had fallen apart. But I knew it was just a push. Marta, my daughter, often showed off on social media, building the image of an ideal mother and careerist. But there were sponsors in her life. Old cases, suspicious connections. I didn't accuse. I just posted the documents in the right place that confirmed the conflict of interest. And the media loved sensationalism. Her reputation was cracked. And with each one, she remembered my words, don't hide the truth, it will find a way. Vlad, the grandson, was an influencer. His world was likes, shadows, stupid dances. But he couldn't explain to his subscribers why a video appeared online where he mocked an elderly person, the very one he himself had once filmed on the street. His fans tore him apart in the comments. And he suddenly realized that publicity is not only fame, but also responsibility. None of them knew it was me. They only saw everything crashing around them. And that was the main thing. I didn't want recognition. I wanted awareness. I wanted each of them to ask themselves at least once, who am I if it's so easy to fall? It all seemed like a coincidence. Another hacker attack, a press office error, a coincidence, an unlucky day. But I knew, there are no coincidences when the one who owns the field plays. My friends, those who still remembered me from years gone by, laughed, Saul, you're back in shape. And I didn't come back. I just dusted myself off. I was always in shape. They just didn't look. I stayed in the shadows. I would go into a coffee shop, sit by the window and watch my son walk by, preoccupied. And he wouldn't suspect that his collapse had started with my pencil. I would hear my neighbor telling others that she was having strange problems with her documents. And I would just nod, as if I didn't understand anything myself. I didn't want them to suffer. I wanted to, so that they remember. So that they remember who I am. So that they see old age not as an end, but as the deepest layer of experience. And strength. The one that is not shouted. That is simply carried. My house was filled with life again. Not with people, with a process. I woke up with the feeling that I was doing something significant. Silently, precisely, fairly. When my daughter called for the first time without a fake smile in her voice, just to talk, I felt that the first step had been taken. When my son said, you can come, talk, advise, I silently agreed. I no longer imposed anything. They came themselves. But I did not forget. Because memory is not a burden. It is a tool. I became the one they neglected. And the one they no longer dare to neglect. Life has not become sweeter. I have not become a happy old man from a movie who sits down to dinner with his family, where everyone laughs and claps their hands on the shoulder. No. This is not such a story. This is reality, solid as a brick on which this house still stands. I did not receive the words, sorry, I did not hear, thank you. And I did not need it. Because respect is not words. It is the silence in which you are seen. Neighbors who once walked by are now the first to greet. They look away. And I know, not out of shame, but out of understanding. Because everyone heard something. But no one knows anything for sure. And this uncertainty is my fortress. My children no longer try to explain to me why they are busy. They have started asking. How are you, Dad? Maybe we can come over on the weekend? And I do not always answer, yes. Because now, I decide. I am no longer a shadow. My grandchildren. They are still afraid. Not me, the offense. Because they realize that a joke can be poison. Vlad no longer tells stupid stories. He even once asked, Grandpa, can you tell me something about how we used to do business? I told him. But briefly. Not for show. For those who want to listen. Society does not applaud the elderly. It is afraid of them when they are silent. Because the silence of old age is a mirror of youth. And if this mirror is empty, a person becomes afraid. I did not destroy. I only reminded. I did not punish, I taught. Everyone who forgot that there is a living person nearby now remembers. Maybe I broke someone's routine. Maybe I threw someone into a crisis. But sometimes it is from a crisis that a new form of humanity is born. I learned not to forgive. But not to take revenge blindly. I learned to strike not at the heart, but at self-confidence. And that hurts more. Old age is not a shadow. This is depth. And whoever does not look into it with respect can lose themselves. I became this depth for them. Not a grandfather. Not a pitiful fragment. But an observer. History. A test. Now I have a new diary. Not the one where I recorded humiliation. But the one where I record new truths. I don't write there every day. But yesterday I made the last entry. And, perhaps, the most important, I am not a shadow. I am the silence that forces you to listen. Subscribe and like, and send the video to your friends.